Hello, welcome again. This is the next reading for chapter 7. We are from the book of BTS, Beyond the Story, a 10-year record of the career of Bangtan Sonyeondan. Welcome once again. You are listening to Beyond 1800 with BTS. Subheading: Fly to my room. Could somebody turn back that clock? This entire year has been lost. I'm still in my bed. The song Fly to My Room in the album B plainly captures BTS's feelings as they were experienced during the pandemic. Time keeps slipping away from them, but nothing seems to be getting better. Jimin looks back on that period when it was becoming clear the pandemic would not disappear anytime soon. I did a lot of thinking. I know this is a bit extreme, but I even had thoughts like, I worked so hard to be a part of this group, but what if the team disappears? It was really hard. But Fly to My Room is also about trying to change one's attitude, at least if changing one's circumstances happens to be impossible. There's no other way. This room's my everything. Whatever then, I will change this place into my world. So those are the lyrics from Fly to My Room. And I think they all contributed, but I think the main writer of this is V, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, the making of V was a series of taking the endless challenges that would otherwise throttle the momentum of their lives and turning them into fuel to burn brighter. Because if they couldn't do that, things would really become unbearable. Like Jimin said, to live as part of BTS meant performing live and meeting ARMY. As the line, I can sleep all day now, no problem, implies in disease. So the way they wrote that title was DIS, and there was a hyphen, EASE. Okay? Another song in B, the pandemic did give them a little more free time compared to before, but by then they had grown into a habit of work where not working actually made them feel a little anxious. Just as they say in the same song, feels like I should be working to the bone, but here I am, shoving down 3 meals a day. During the pandemic, Jin had this to say about the complicated emotions during that time. All those things I've always wanted to do before. Go fishing, or play games all day, or meet friends. When our schedule fell apart, I spent about 3 weeks doing all that. But even then, I felt pretty anxious. Like, is it all right even if I keep doing nothing? It was all too vague to really let myself sit back and take a rest. I kept thinking, I've got to do this. I still have to do that. But on the other hand, the work I'm doing now it feels different. Maybe it's because we're not touring, but even while we're working, it feels like resting. Since debuting with Too Cool for School and reaching Map of the Soul 7, BTS's accomplishments over those 7 years followed the progression of what could almost be considered a classical hero narrative. A band of 7 young men whom no one paid attention to, except the few who looked down on them, fighting through various difficulties and paying back with love all the people who came to love and support them along the way. But not only did their story keep continuing after they triumphed as heroes, reality kept throwing all sorts of obstacles no one could ever have imagined. B is the story of how life as an artist and individual goes on in all sorts of unexpected ways. So the song is Life Goes On. There's the BTS, the group version, and then we just found out that Suga has his also version of Life Goes On. It's equally an incredible also version, and he plays the piano during his D-Day 4 concerts and sings his version of Life Goes On. I kept saying how hard things were. Of course, I had so many people to be grateful for, like Army and the members and the Hyungs who stayed by my side even as I was feeling blue. I was so grateful to them that there's a song written for them. But as for the really sad one, we put in B. The sad song V is referring to here is Blue and Gray. V had been working on his own mixtape during the production process of B. Of the many songs he was working on during this difficult period, Blue and Gray especially looks deep into what he had felt since his debut with BTS and the pandemic. Everyone seems happy. Can you look at me? 'Cause I am blue and gray. Tears reflected in the mirror mean my colors hidden behind the smile, blue and gray. Don't know where things went wrong since I was little, a blue question mark in my head. Maybe that's why I lived full on. But looking back, standing here by myself, that menacing shadow devours me. These are the lyrics from Blue and Gray. The feelings being captured in Blue and Gray were no doubt what he had felt during the making of B. He adds, you know, my thoughts. Through the song, I wanted people to understand us better and how deep our feelings were running. Everyone has it hard, of course, but I really wanted to capture and share the pain and thoughts we experienced in our growth or our path to success. I guess you can say I wanted to make it obvious a bit, to make my feelings known. I'm not the type to talk directly about my feelings, but it occurred to me that I could still talk about them through song. Blue and Gray serves as a dividing line within B. The determination to let go of the pandemic in Life Goes On is only possible after changing one's perspective of the pandemic in Fly to My Room. And Fly to My Room is only made possible after an experience of looking into one's sadness, as in Blue and Gray. The three songs, Life Goes On, Fly to My Room, and Blue and Gray, that comprise the beginning of B, go deep into the dark emotions and events experienced by BTS since the onset of the pandemic. And once the bleak loneliness of blue and gray passes like a dark night, the first words of skit can be heard. Congratulations, Billboard's #1 artist coming through. Subheading: Be Dynamite. If it weren't for the pandemic, perhaps BTS would never have sung Dynamite. The last scene of the music video for On, the title song of Map of the Soul 7, is a title card with the words "No More Dream," where the words "No More" slowly fade away, leaving behind Dream. Just as the song Boy with Love and Boy in Love, or On and NO, are connected, Dream was supposed to be the answer to No More Dream, the title song of their debut album. The young men who in their debut had searched for love and shouted no to a world that tried to make them live other people's dreams had now reached a superstar status so high they could barely see the ground, just as they found themselves at the end of the On music video, and it was in that moment BTS had been planning to sing the song that encapsulated the weight of the past years of building up their name. But just as it had been for everyone else in the world at that time, BTS's history pivoted toward an unexpected direction. If B is a record of their changed situations and feelings during the global health crisis, Dynamite was the first major challenge presented to them during the pandemic era. It began with what Bang Shi-yuk would call a feeling. Bang Shi-yuk was thinking about everything that would change for BTS because of the pandemic, and the core of his concerns was jet lag. By the time of Map of the Soul 7, BTS had become a band that toured stadiums around the world. 7 years since their debut, they were at the peak of their powers, and their artistry had matured. But at the same time, BTS were creating another sensation. The media was focusing on ARMY's passionate response to the Love Yourself and Map of the Soul series, and this had led to their unprecedented levels of exposure in the US mass media, just such as their SNL or Saturday Night Live performance, which in turn meant people around the world were now paying attention. To those who already followed K-pop through YouTube content and the like, BTS were already superstars. But to those who had first seen them on television through shows like SNL or read about them in mass media articles, BTS were something completely new that had sprung from South Korea. If it weren't for the pandemic, this jet lag in exposure might have been resolved fairly easily. Putting out albums and doing more stadium tours would go far in justifying their popularity through the scale and artistry of these efforts, and the explosive response from fans in each touring city would have provided ample opportunity to show the world just what kind of group BTS really were. But because of the pandemic, BTS could not go forth to see the fans who were waiting for them, and the chance to let the world know of the group's renown, talent, and history disappeared. No matter how much they racked up the hits on YouTube, they would not be able to appeal to an even greater audience without live performances, especially for an act that already had a large worldwide fandom like BTS, who needed something more to break into the next level. Bang Shiyu, intuiting this problem, made two decisions. One, to step back a little in the role of producer of B and have the members of BTS take greater responsibility in deciding the direction of the album. Instead of following an extremely detailed plan, the album would consist of what the members had experienced and felt throughout the pandemic. Two, that a dynamite would be thrown at everyone who was beginning to discover BTS. That at this moment in time, when BTS,
You could be really hot, but you change like
okay,
everything.
Good lord.
okay, sorry for that ad. So where was I? And the explosive response from fans in each touring city. Oh, no, sorry. Okay. Two, that a dynamite would be thrown at everyone who was beginning to discover BTS. That at this moment in time, when BTS attracted more attention around the world than ever before, they would throw at the audience a song that everyone, everywhere, would love, giving them the chance to become new fans. Subheading: Singing in English. When we first heard it, the song sounded great, but it was going to be the first English song we released, and someone from the outside had written it, so we did worry a little. Will the song grow up nice and strong? I bet it's RM, yes, that's right. RM had been a little worried about Dynamite. Released on August 21, 2020, aside from their activities in Japan, BTS had always released songs in Korean, and the fact that they had achieved worldwide fame with Korean language songs was a point of great pride for them and ARMY. While there was no law against singing in English, trying out something so new was bound to give anyone pause, but it was also clear why BTS had to release Dynamite. Now, there was a song that was all in English by BTS, Wasted on Me, but I think the way it was released was there were Asian actors who were the ones who were singing the lyrics of the song. But that was, I think, the first all-English BTS song. So, on the global response to the song, RM says, the fandom must have craved it more than we thought. It was back when everyone's emotions were extremely suppressed by the pandemic, which is why people responded so ardently online. And there was probably a lower barrier of entry thanks to it being an English song. It made me think. I worried over nothing. ARMY are always more awesome than we think. 7 months after entering production, B was released on November 20, 2020. If BTS had not released Dynamite that summer, they would have had almost no opportunity to perform during those 7 months. With the pandemic making most non-essential outside activities impossible all over the world, the deprivation fans would have felt from the lack of live performances would have been even more acute. Jin thinks back on that time. Before we started promoting Dynamite, there was a 3 or 4 month period where we did not get to go on any stage. It almost made me think that kind of thing is not my job. Dynamite, while essentially the emotional opposite of B, was also the capstone that completed it, with B being a candid record of their experiences and thoughts surrounding the pandemic. Dynamite was a fun disco pop song that described looking forward to an outing as if the pandemic were over. At the online press conference for Dynamite held on August 21st, 2020, Jimin explained, "We really wanted to stand on stage. As a group who must meet and communicate with their fans, I honestly think we felt very empty and helpless. We needed a way to overcome this emptiness and helplessness, and also thought it would be a good opportunity, a new challenge. B was the pandemic's reality, while Dynamite was the dream of everyone hoping for the end of the pandemic. While Dynamite was indeed the opposite of B, it was a kind of pandemic song as well, and this digital single was included as the final track of B, giving B a twist at the end of its narrative. From the first song, Life Goes On, to Fly to My Room and Blue and Gray, the mood quickly turns with Skit, which contains a boisterous moment congratulating BTS on their Billboard Hot 100 #1, followed by Telepathy, where Suga captures his longing for someone he could not see and his hopes they would meet again, shining a light of hope through the dark. J-Hope has a lively moment in Deceit, where he lets loose about his complicated feelings about not having to work because of the pandemic, and Jungkook's Stay imagines a moment in the future where BTS and ARMY would meet again in concert, infusing B with hope and determination. With the final edition of Dynamite, B becomes a record of life under the pandemic and the process in which we overcome its challenges. Since it is BTS's music video and not just mine, I wanted it to capture not just one member's thoughts, but everyone's situation, to put in all of our situations and show them directly. That while everyone watching may have their own thoughts, we also feel what others are feeling and are in the same boat as everyone else. That was Jungkook's intention, as stated in Weverse magazine, on the direction of the Life Goes On video. It was Jungkook who directed that music video. Interestingly, both the video for Life Goes On and Dynamite, the first and last songs of B, respectively, show the inside of Jungkook's room. Life Goes On has a heavier mood, reflecting the onset of the pandemic situation, while in Dynamite, Jungkook dances joyfully in the same space in a much lighter atmosphere. B also moves from the reality of Life Goes On to the hopeful dream of Dynamite. As Jungkook implies, BTS created their songs with the understanding that what they were going through was probably not that different from what the rest of the world was going through, and chose to end the endeavor with the hope shown in Dynamite. These duetting lines of emotion were BTS's record of the first year of the pandemic. Subheading: Fireworks shot up in a silent world. So, shot up in a silent world. regardless of what the response to Dynamite would have been. BTS had worked on the song a little differently from their previous work, adopting a more light-hearted approach. Jin describes what the mood was like working on the song. In other times, we worked with very strict discipline. But Dynamite was more like working on a bonus track. The members had been working on B, and this unwarranted test period had given them more time to prepare Dynamite for release. It was an ideal situation of sorts, where they felt lighter than usual while having more time to work on something to get it absolutely right. Everyone was so great then. J-Hope laughs. J-Hope, who often sets the tone for BTS's dance practices, thinks back to when they were practicing the Dynamite choreography. We'd grown that much more by then. Everyone knew very well how to pick up choreography and put their own spin on it. Everyone had truly become champions of the game. J-Hope laughs, which is why we did not really have any difficulty performance-wise. The dancing looks light and easy, but the perfect execution of every movement was make or break for this song. We tried our best to be as precise as possible. The Dynamite video overlays disco moves over the song's upbeat disco rhythm. It was a choreography anyone could have fun following. But BTS, amid the fun and the free atmosphere of the visuals, infused a feeling of dynamism in the performance through perfect synchronization of movements in different points of the video. The chorus especially is composed of rousing disco dance moves, but from the moment they step forward as one to execute the razor-sharp group dance, they stamp the performance with their powerful trademark. Yep, Bangtan style. Dynamite was the perfect introduction to BTS for those who were just becoming aware of the group. The song was a new starting line for the group that had already amassed a huge following over their 7 years of activity. We had a feeling fans would love Dynamite, but we were curious as to whether people who were not ARMY in America and other
It's
places.
not her fault that land clearing clogs up the waterways.
So, let's see. Okay, but we were curious as to whether people who were not ARMY in America and other places overseas would also like the song. As Jungkook implies, no one could have predicted the general audience response to Dynamite. Map of the Soul 7's On had entered the Billboard Hot 100 at number 4 in its first week, which made it fairly reasonable to assume the newer song would do at least as well. On was a Korean language song and meant for a giant stage, which meant there were limits as to its viability as a listening-only song, but it had still made number 4, which bode well for the reception of Dynamite, but there was simply no guarantee for how well the later song would actually do. The night Dynamite was scheduled to debut on the Billboard Hot 100, J-Hope had gone to bed early without bothering to stay up to see what position it would chart. Only when he woke up the next morning did he realize the whole world was different. I was actually asleep when it was announced, J-Hope laughs. So I didn't see it right away, and when I learned of it waking up, I was surprised. We made number 1. We did something absolutely grand. V recalls the members' reactions after the news of their number one. We were overjoyed together. Someone was laughing and someone was crying, and it was all, how do I say this? We weren't going down a dead end this whole time. That our path had actually been going somewhere. That we had not been trying to do something that was simply impossible. I realized all along we'd had the opportunity and a tiny bit of possibility. But they did not have long to enjoy their triumph. The pandemic had created a completely new work environment for them. J-Hope explains what happened that day. As soon as we learned we got a number one, a whole schedule was set up. J-Hope laughs. As soon as we heard of a schedule, we went, all right, we're coming. Topping the Billboard Hot 100 was an event of such magnitude that the members had cried upon hearing it had happened. But because of the pandemic, they were unable to go to America or perform Dynamite on a live stage. This was why even the members themselves found it difficult to really believe it was true. We dreamed a lot about making it to the top of the Billboard Hot 100, imagining what will it feel like when we make it to that level. But making it to the top during the pandemic made it a little too surreal. We were happy, but after a while it was like, that's how it is, you know? Jin compares the feeling to when they won their many awards. Of all our awards and rankings and such, this was the one that felt the least real. All of our awards, like the BBMAs, felt very real in the moment, but not this event. To the point of thinking, is it all right if we accept this? It was probably because we were so physically isolated from the outside world. A Korean group had scored a Billboard Hot 100 number one song while still in Korea. The popularity of the song continued. Dynamite went on to have a second consecutive week at number one and retook the top position on its fifth week, spending 13 weeks total in the top 13. Korea's idol industry utilized in various ways their knowledge of online platform promotional channels like YouTube to great effect. This was also how BTS could return to a busy promotional schedule, as J-Hope mentioned. Only the method of this promotional work was very different from how they had gone about it before and was beginning on a global scale. It was like being a new group again, because we had to work for a very long time. RM remembers the work surrounding the release of Dynamite as a unique experience in BTS's career. From the moment the song was released, they were in promotional mode for 2 whole months. This was the longest promotional period they had ever had, where they did not have to do any live performance work. But they still had to perform, creating recorded performances for every presentation of the song, as if filming a new music video every time, using different settings and staging. These presentations were broadcast through various media and YouTube. In the one for America's Got Talent, a popular American audition program, they performed the song retro style in a theme park in Korea. For NPR's music channel on YouTube, they filmed for that outlet's Tiny Desk concert series titled Tiny Desk Home Concert on this occasion in a record shop in Seoul. For the 2020 MTV Video Music Awards, where they premiered the stage performance version of the song, New York City and Seoul came together as one city through the magic of special effects, while the 2020 BBMA's performance was filmed at Incheon International Airport. That these were all recorded performances with no live audiences was a constraint, but on the other hand, the constraints forced everyone involved to try things they never would have tried in previous television programs or award shows. While it was regrettable that they could not perform live for the fans, BTS still managed to put a different twist on their performance of Dynamite every time. We will stop there. Thank you for joining me again this reading session. It has been a pleasure having you in this session, and thank you for listening. Until next time, this is Beyond 1800 with BTS. Have a wonderful day and evening.